Hey there, folks. I am so excited. I feel like this is almost a first. Not only did this week's health writing tips video start on time, but I'm actually a couple of seconds early. So if you're catching this live, hello, I hope you're having a great day. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for tuning in. No matter whether you're watching live or watching on the replay, remember that you can always feel free to leave a comment. I will see it either in real time or when I come back and see the notifications that you left the comment. So make sure to participate in the conversation. We are kicking things off today with part three of three of this series that we've been doing over the past few weeks. And this series has been all about the different types of medical and health writing. When you think about your interest as a medical or health writer, one of the first questions that I recommend asking yourself is what type of medical or health writing are you interested in? And so this 3-week series has been dedicated to talking through some of those types, what they're all about, what they include, and what falls under the category of medical writing versus health writing, and where there might be some gray area in between. So the first 2 parts were all about medical writing. In part 1, we talked about regulatory writing, medical information, and medical communications. And then in part 2, we talked about medical education and medical grant writing. And today we're going to be diving into 3/3.5, that'll make more sense, types of health writing. And so we're going to be covering health journalism, consumer health education, health communications, and healthcare marketing. If you have not had the chance to connect with me previously, my name is Megan Freeland. I'm a public health pharmacist turned health content strategist. I create content strategies for health companies and help them execute those strategies through blog posts. And I also teach other health professionals how to use their clinical expertise and build additional streams of income through freelance health writing. And that program is called the Health Professionals to Health Writers Accelerator Program. So we can go ahead and jump into the first topic today, which is health journalism. So what exactly is that? Sometimes you might hear it called health reporting or health news, or again, health journalism. They kind of mean the same thing. It's basically where you could think of it almost like a subset of journalism, right? Like a specific type of journalism where the topic being dealt with is health related in nature. So honestly, health journalism is just as much a subset of journalism as it is a subset of health writing or a specific type of health writing. And that's because a lot of health reporters, when you see health news, a lot of health reporters actually have a journalism background as opposed to having a healthcare or medical background. That doesn't mean that it's impossible for health professionals to become health reporters or to become health journalists. That just means that your path might look a little different. So when you think about where you see health news out in the world, out in the wild, that can offer you some indication of where health journalism opportunities lie. So various news outlets, media outlets, platforms might have verticals or topic areas that deal with health. And so there would be opportunities for health or medical reporting there. But also there are, as you know, as a health professional, there are also outlets and platforms that are specifically devoted to medical and health education or health news. And so there are also opportunities at those types of outlets that are very industry specific, where you might have the opportunity to kind of apply a more journalistic approach to health writing. And so if we think about examples for pharmacists, we have the Pharmacy Times. For just medical health professionals in general, we have Doximity. We have Modern Healthcare, Health Tech Magazine. Think of kind of like trade magazines and trade outlets like that. And then you also have health news sites that are geared towards the general public. So the first one that comes to mind is like Medical News Today and different sites like that, where the writing is more so about late breaking updates related to healthcare and kind of getting that information out to the masses. I also meant to remind you at the beginning of this, in the previous videos, we've talked about what each type entails, where you can find those opportunities, and then how to get started. We're going to talk about how to get started with all of these types of health writing towards the end, because the how to get started is similar for a lot of them. So that was health journalism. I want to briefly touch on consumer education or consumer health education, because this is kind of it's almost a blanket or umbrella term that can refer to a couple of different types of health writing. Basically, what consumer health education is using health education or health information to equip the general public with the information and education they need to be able to make informed decisions about their own healthcare, what types of services they want to use, what types of care they need, with the goal being to improve their health and help them make those decisions. So it's basically supplying them with helpful health information and health education in efforts to improve the overall healthcare of the population. So consumer health education is really kind of a public health concept. And you can think about websites like a lot of the government websites, like Medline Plus is an example of one of them. There's one called Health Finder. Healthfinder.gov is another one, but that's where you can go and find health information in very plain, easy to understand language. But I brought consumer health education up in the context of today's live video because that concept of educating the general public on different healthcare topics often manifests in several different ways. So it can manifest through health communications, which we're about to talk about, and it can also manifest through healthcare marketing in some ways, which we're going to talk about as well. So I wanted to kind of level set us with what is consumer health education before we dive into the next two types of health writing. So we can move on to health communications first. So health communications, in my view, primarily falls under the health writing category because most of the communications that you create as a health communicator are being delivered to the general public. Now, there are some exceptions because sometimes there are campaigns where you're trying to affect behavior in medical populations, maybe physicians or nurses or pharmacists. So you're trying to get some type of information across to that group of people. But in the majority of cases, you're really trying to educate the general public on a concept. So I lump health communications under health writing. And one role that I held at the CDC that was a health communications role, specifically dealing with antibiotic stewardship and antimicrobial resistance, a lot of the materials that we created through that particular campaign were the types of materials that someone in the general public would normally consume, right? We weren't writing publications, not for that particular audience. Our experts were publishing articles, but then we were taking the information, the research that the conclusions that they came to in that research and making that transferable to a general audience. So in order to do that, we were creating materials like fact sheets, like infographics, like blog posts, like op-eds, like social media posts, video scripts, different types of communications materials that were very accessible and understandable by the general public. Oftentimes in health communications, these materials are a part of a larger campaign. So there might be one particular concept or one particular update that's happening, and there is a whole campaign dedicated to getting the key information out to a specific group of people. So in the case of my CDC role, for example, the campaign that I primarily worked on was, at that time, it was called Get Smart About Antibiotics. And the goal was to spread awareness about, certain pathogens that were especially worrisome when it comes to antimicrobial resistance, and sharing new data that had been recently published about antibiotic overuse and things of that nature. So it was a whole campaign dedicated to this. And so all the materials that we created were tied to this specific campaign. So you will oftentimes see that health communications opportunities are very campaign-based, and they are also rooted in public health. If you can think of other examples of campaigns that you might have either been a part of or seen like in commercials on TV or in brochures. Drop those in the chat because I'm sure we can all think of a lot of examples. One that comes to mind is like smoking in youth campaigns that you often see commercials for. Those are all tied to health communications and public health campaigns. So where are health communications opportunities? Honestly, the CDC and a lot of the organizations that have contracts with the CDC often post health communications roles on job boards because, as you can imagine, there's so much research and information that's constantly being generated within the agency, and they're always in need of people to help communicate that information to the general public audiences who need it. So you're going to see a lot of roles posted through the CDC and through organizations that have contracts with the CDC. You might also see health communications roles in other public health agencies, especially nonprofits, and in other healthcare, like general healthcare nonprofits. So that was health communications. Again, if you have any questions, whether you're catching this live or on the replay, be sure to leave them and I will get back to them. The last type of health writing that I want to talk about today is healthcare marketing. And this is a wide kind of category because there are so many individual types of healthcare marketing that fall within this. But looking at it at a bird's view, it's basically marketing applied to the healthcare setting, right? And especially in the online world that we live in, a lot of that marketing is digital. So when we think digital marketing, we're thinking like email marketing. So the newsletters that you get when you buy a top from Nordstrom or you buy a dress from wherever, and then they keep emailing you about sales and discounts and this and that. Those are part of email marketing campaigns. So email marketing is a type of digital marketing. Social media marketing is a type of digital marketing. Copywriting is a type of digital marketing, and content marketing, which I mostly talk about, is also a critical component of digital marketing. So all of those types are also very relevant to health companies as well, and are therefore very relevant to healthcare marketing. So when it comes to healthcare marketing, I guess to give you an idea of what types of skills are helpful to have in these types of roles, and kind of some of the things that make these roles really interesting as well. One of the things that I love a lot about healthcare marketing is that there's so much room for creativity, right? Because yes, it's in regards to healthcare in some capacity, but the essence of marketing is also finding creative ways to engage with an audience. And so there's always creativity involved in trying to figure out how to best communicate a message to a certain type of person. So there's a lot of opportunity for creativity and also strategic thinking, right? How do I craft this message so that it resonates the most with this specific type of person that I'm trying to reach? How do I make sure that they get that message? What types of platforms should I use? What types of words should I use? What should my tone be? What should my style be? To make sure that this message resonates with that person. So having that strategic approach as well. And then also to some degree, you have to have some digital or technological prowess or know-how, and that's something that can be learned, right? So we don't come out of the womb knowing how to work a computer or navigate the internet, but that's something that you can learn over time. I kind of like to focus in on content marketing when I talk about healthcare marketing, because I think it is one of the subsets of healthcare marketing that is most valuable for health companies to engage with, which is why I work as a content writer and content strategist, and why I teach other professionals how to do that. Just to kind of give you an overview, health companies benefit from content marketing because basically content is just information, and it's information being composed in a way that helps the the reader or the watcher or the listener solve a problem or answer a question that they have. And when you can demonstrate to a particular audience that you have the solutions to their problems and you have the answer to their questions, that increases their trust in your brand and in your company. And that trust down the line might translate into them buying a healthcare product or service, or coming into a pharmacy as a patient or to a clinic as a patient, because they trust your brand and they trust the information that you provide to them. So it's a very subtle way to offer information, offer education, offer entertainment sometimes, and also have that translate into increasing the bottom line of a health company. And so I have a special place in my heart for health content marketing. As far as where opportunities are, I think it's first helpful to say that with different types of healthcare marketing, there are full-time opportunities, but there also are a lot of freelance opportunities. Part-time is a little less common, I would say. And I actually did a video recently talking about the different types of opportunities, full-time versus part-time versus freelance versus even volunteer, which I can share in the comments if somebody can remind me to do that. But a lot of the opportunities are either going to be full-time, where you're working within an organization on some type of marketing effort, or it might be freelance, where you kind of run your own business, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's your full-time business, and you help different companies, a variety of companies, with these types of healthcare marketing efforts. The companies that can benefit from healthcare marketing literally span the entire industry. So some of them are health content hubs, where you see them pumping out a lot of content all the time. Think about your Healthlines, your WebMDs, that kind of site, your Mayo Clinics. Some of them are going to be just regular old health companies that might have a blog on their website, or might have a newsletter where they share blog content. But what I always tell my students is that literally any type of health company can benefit from healthcare marketing. It can be a private practice clinic, it can be a health system, a birth center, a professional organization, an academic institution, literally any type of healthcare institution, because it's a way to connect with their audience, right? So that's kind of an explanation of what healthcare marketing is and where those opportunities are. As I mentioned, the way to get started with a lot of these health writing opportunities is pretty similar. So the first thing that I have been recommending in every one of these videos in this series is connect with people who are already in these spaces, using LinkedIn, using whatever other resources you have access to. But if you don't have access to any other resources to connect with people, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, that means you have access to a major network that can help you find these people. So if you're interested in health journalism, look up health journalists, health news reporters. If you're interested in healthcare marketing, look up the people who are in those marketing fields. If you're interested in health communications, look up people who work in health communications, connect with them, build relations with them, learn more about their work, okay? The other recommendation that I have is, if you are interested in any one of these types of medical writing that we covered today, you want to consume content that matches that interest. So if you're interested in being a health reporter, you need to be finding health news and reading it so that you can get a feel for the structure, for the style, for the topics, for the flow. If you're interested in social media marketing within healthcare, you need to be following health brands and reading what they post and consuming that content, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, TikTok. You need to consume the type of content that you're interested in, and that will help you learn a lot more about it. What else will help you learn, though, is when you actually start doing the practice yourself. So practice writing. If you're interested in health news, practice writing health news stories. If you are interested in doing health communications campaigns, practice writing a piece for those campaigns. Maybe you practice writing a fact sheet, or practice writing a blog post if you're interested in healthcare marketing, specifically health content marketing. And when I say practice, that means that maybe you can find opportunities that are already in your surrounding environment to write, whether it's like contributing to something at work or in your community or at school. And if those opportunities don't exist, you can offer yourself for those opportunities. If that doesn't work, you can just practice on your own. I'm not an only child, but I'm a middle child, and my siblings who grew up with me are 7 years older and 7 years younger than me. So in a lot of ways, I felt like an only child. I would play checkers by myself. I played cards by myself. I did a lot of things by myself that are not really meant to be done by myself, but I did them anyway. And this is basically what I'm saying to you now. Even if you don't have these opportunities that other people are going to see, practice it for yourself, because that's going to be helpful when you're trying to grow in this space and get better in this area that you may not have a whole lot of experience in right now. My next recommendations are if you are interested in content marketing specifically. I have a whole host of videos that this collection of videos that I do every Wednesday. All of those are compiled on my YouTube channel called Health Writing for Health Professionals. So you can feel free to go there, subscribe, and binge those videos to learn more about it. You can also reach out to me if you might be interested in learning how to start that freelance content marketing business on your own if you're a health professional. The next cohort of health professionals to health writers does not open until January, but I'll be opening a wait list this week because demand is high, and I want to make sure that I'm being fair because, as you know, there is a cap on the amount of students that I take every round. So since so many people have been asking about the next round, I want to make sure that I have a wait list so that it's fair. So you can reach out to me to find out more about that next cohort or to get on the wait list. And on that wait list, if you're there, you'll be getting an email from me that will have periodic resources that help you develop a better understanding about what content marketing is, and direct you to some locations where you can do some learning on your own as well. So those are my recommendations for getting started in these different types of health writing. And I think that covers it. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them on the chat, even if you're catching it on the replay, and I'll come back around and answer them. And I will see you all next week.